Hi, welcome aboard. Well, it seems to be a habit of mine lately to introduce the show from boat shows. A couple of weeks ago it was Sydney. This is the 1998 Brisbane boat show. In between there has been Perth. And this has been one of the most successful boat show seasons in recent years. In fact, I have been talking to the exhibitors here who have been exhibiting at these other shows, and they say that it really is a good season this year. Now, this week we'll be looking at a brand new accessory to keep your car stable as it goes through corners, an Australian design, Australian technology, truly magnificent, one that I've been testing for the last 9 months. We'll also be looking at a car and household accessory for people who have bad backs. But first of all, Spinksy is down at the Brisbane fish markets. It's very early, and I promise you there is a huge amount of action. What are you doing, Spinksy?
G'day Chris, well here we are at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're here at Raptis Seafoods in Brisbane. We're here at the wholesale fish markets. It's a fascinating place. Later on, and the action.
It didn't take long after the first steam engine wheezed its way into life at the dawning of the age of technology for designers to realise that their art was one of compromise. No matter what the mechanical device may be, all aspects of its design and operation are the result of compromise on the part of the designers and engineers who conceived it. Now, never is that more true than in the case of automotive suspensions. And if you think about the fact that by far the best relationship of a tyre to the road is vertical to the road, and that suspensions are designed in such a way that as the body of the car heels due to side forces in a corner, the tyres assume angles other than vertical to the road, you can see where the problems arise. Now, design have spent hundreds of thousands of hours and millions of dollars over the years in endeavouring to design suspension systems which keep the body of the car as parallel to the surface of the road as possible. And the device which has just been fitted to my car, which is called a G-force stabiliser, has effectively put all of those dollars and hours to waste, because what it does is address the problem from the other end and ensure that the body of the car stays parallel with the road regardless of the side force. Now, it's called a G-force stabiliser, and I said a little while ago, in fact, it was fitted to my car in December of 1997. It's now August of 1998, and I've had the pleasure of driving my old 60 series Land Cruiser as ineffectively a research and development mode for the last 9 months or so, and the results are truly amazing. Now, we're just approaching a roundabout here, and I'll drive at a speed of around about 55 kilometres an hour, which is the speed at which we tested this unit a few weeks ago on this exact same roundabout. Now, I'll just accelerate up to 55 kilometres an hour, which is about all our cameraman, Spinksy, in the back can handle as far as side forces are concerned. And I'm sure that you can see, looking through the windscreen, that the body has remained effectively level. And it really is quite an eerie experience to go around in a car which is renowned for its body roll, around a corner as tight as this, as fast as this, and find that the body stays effectively level with the road. Far more graphically than that, have a look at these shots of my vehicle driven around the same roundabout at the same speed with the G-force stabiliser disabled. Now, this is a truly magnificent technological innovation. It's all Australian once again, which makes me proud. And as I said, I've had the opportunity to live with it intimately over the last 9 months. I know exactly how it works. I've driven the car with it disconnected, and I've been astonished at how much effect it has. Its technology is just as spectacular as its performance, and we're going to come back in future weeks and show you in detail just how the G-force stabiliser works.
Well, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and here we are at Brisbane at Raptis Seafoods. Now, it's the wholesale fish markets, and if you've never been to the wholesale fish markets, then like me, you'll find this place most fascinating. There's all kinds of weird fish here that are being caught overnight, most of which I've got absolutely no idea. Whatever that is, I've got no idea. although I do know this. This is the everyday common flathead. Over here we have the blue salmon. And here we have a truly remarkable fish called the broad-bill swordfish. Now, after all the auctioning's done here today and everybody's gone, whatever fish is left, we're going to find you the most interesting fish, and then we're off to Brisbane's #1 chef to cook our fish up in the most exotic of ways. The day begins at the fish markets from 3:30 a.m. when the first of the fishermen bring in their catch. Seafood from all over Queensland is also brought in. The fish are then unloaded at the dock, weighed and taken in to the auction room. The public is welcome in the auction room. Picking up a bargain is a lot of fun, but a word of warning. Trying to understand the auctioneer's fish lingo through a blaring microphone, well, it's a tough one. I think this one's a little big for the frying pan. A massive 80% of our fish are exported. However, this only constitutes 2% of the world's fish consumption. Australian fish and our oceans are classified clean and green, meaning unpolluted and environmentally friendly. This comes with strict management from our state fisheries, so a consistent supply of fish is guaranteed, both now and in the future. Other countries like Taiwan, where regulation has not been so strict, has virtually wiped out the fishing industry. All these factors mean that Aussie fish is in great demand, yielding among the highest price per kilo in the world market. Now check this out. This is a Spanish mackerel. It's a surface fish, and it's one that game fishermen love to catch. As you can see, this is a beauty, but you wouldn't want to get this fish on a bad day. Check out the teeth on that. Now this is what they call a bat fish. Looks like a bat. Now, if you ever wondered how a fish turns into a fillet, all ready to eat at your local fish shop, the task is done by these men. Together, they will grade, sort males from females, and fillet 10 to 12 tonne of fish every day. I did ask the question to Billy Cooper, how many fish does 12 tonne represent? His reply was, a lot of fish. Couple of fish per kilo, you work it out. Yep. Now, Bill, what do we have in here?
That's the onion from the mullet gun.
Yeah.
Some onion or the giblet, known as.
And why do you keep all the mullet gut?
Because the onion section goes to Japanese market as a delicacy.
So the Japanese actually eat this?
They eat it, yeah. I don't know how they do it, probably marinate it or whatever. Put a soy sauce, they eat it. Apparently it's a delicacy. Probably costs around $40, $50 a kilo over there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And do we eat them here?
Some people do, yeah.
Well, there you go, mullet gut. Okay. Later in the show, we will conclude the Raptor story as we meet Arthur Raptis, one of the family members that started it all.
There were two very important things that happened to pleasure boating in the early 1950s. One was the advent of fiberglass, which made it possible to build long-lasting, high-performance boats on a mass production basis and therefore make them affordable. And the second was the advent of high-powered, lightweight, reliable outboard motors. Now those two things combine to create an upsurge in pleasure boating around the world and in Australia, the like of which has really never been seen before or since. Now as a result of that, as we approach the turn of the century, there are well over 500,000 outboard motors on Australia's waterways. And until 18 years ago, those outboard motors were not serviced by a reliable spare parts organisation, particularly second-hand remanufactured spare parts. Now 18 years ago, Golden Seal came into existence in Mordialloc in Victoria here, run by Peter Buckingham. It was his brainchild to source old outboard motors from around Australia, to wreck them and to supply spare parts.
I've been in the industry for over 30 years, but in 1980 we decided there was a big hole to be filled as far as supplying spare parts. It was a really big part of the business that was being left out. No one was doing it. You've got to bear in mind that Australia had been selling something like 25 to 35,000 units a year for the last 20 years, and there's a lot of engines there that need to be fixed. There wasn't a satisfactory alternative to the standard parts that were available from dealerships. It happened in the car industry, and we could see it was going to happen in the marine industry.
So when did you first start remanufacturing and repairing components and complete power heads?
That came about 3 or 4 years later, because what we were finding was that insurance companies, for instance, dealers, just straight consumers, were wanting rebuilt gearboxes, power heads, things like that. So we were buying a lot of new parts to go into the rebuilds. So then we started sourcing alternative brand parts in the US and using those in our rebuilds so that we could supply a good quality rebuild.
So now you not only source those still from overseas, but you also export a lot of remanufactured parts.
Well, as a result of having to perhaps source bearings or seals or gaskets here, we just found we had the volume then to order in reasonable quantities, get the price down, and then we started exporting to the US.
Now what about your facilities? I mean, this is a very impressive facility here. It's immaculately clean. Everything is catalogued and in its right place. Obviously you use computers for a lot of the parts.
All of our new and reconditioned parts automatically go onto computer. The second-hand parts are a little bit harder because you've got to make sure the quality of what you're cataloguing is worth recording.
Now, what about the less known brands that have been on the market and fallen off and things like that?
Well, we handle Chrysler parts. In fact, we've been the Australian distributor for Chrysler parts since about the mid-80s, and contrary to what some people think, they are still readily available. In some cases, we find the Chrysler parts may have gone out of production on some very early models. Often we source those locally and have them remanufactured. Alternatively, we can supply rebuilt componentry or second-hand components, so that it's not often you find you can't keep a Chrysler engine on the water. If you come to other brands, we have some of the lesser-known ones, but we're finding these days that things like Seagull, Panamex, there's just not enough out there now to really worry about. So what we say to people is, hey, give us a try. If you can't get it anywhere else, give us a call. If anyone's got it, we'll have it.
Now, most of the remanufacturing is carried out on the premises here?
Oh yes, we've got a couple of subcontractors, but as you've probably noticed as you walk through here, we've got our own welding, we've got our own machining, we've got our own bead blasting, linisher. We do a lot of the work internally.
So do you install cylinder sleeves and things like that?
No, we have a contractor for that, but we do import all of our cylinder sleeves from the US, from a company, LA Sleeve Company, who supply a lot of the major OEMs in the States. So we wholesale those back out through to the trade as well as using them internally.
Do you send those, I mean, somebody rings you from Broome, for instance, and they've got an unusual part for an exotic outboard or stern drive. You obviously offer an overnight delivery service where possible?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an exotic part either. Like we have standard run-of-the-mill replacement parts. It might be a Merc Cruiser or an OMC or a Volvo set of manifolds, or risers, a water pump. We just package them up, and if they want it overnight, they'll get it overnight. Your only thing there is to remember that the heavier the article is, the more costly it is to send by air. But our big service is on smaller service parts, fast-moving parts. Up to 3 or 4 kilos can go overnight in an airbag, and that'll go just about to any major centre around Australia.
A large percentage of Australians suffer from crooked backs. Now, whether that's from accident or general wear and tear, the fact remains that people get around with really painful backs, exactly as I do as a result of being in the fiberglass game for so long, and lifting things that my arms and shoulders can handle but which my spine couldn't. Now, Paul Tisdall, a good mate of mine in Newcastle, suffers from the same problem, but Paul has settled down and come up with a solution. He's a thinker and an inventor. And the solution is this. Now, I know you're thinking, how can that possibly help my crook back? Let me show you. Let me just describe it first. It's a vinyl envelope which is airtight, most important. It's filled with a special fire retardant form of styrene beads, as you find in beanbags. Now, I'll just put it on the office chair there, press it down, sit on it, wriggle around until I'm comfortable, and then because my back pain is in my lower back, I will move around with the beads with my hands and just build them up in my lower back area. Then I grab this and I pump. Now, everybody will recognise that as a close cousin of the outboard primer pump, but what it's doing is evacuating the envelope. It's taking the air out of it. Doesn't take particularly long, and you know that the envelope has been evacuated when the bulb no longer reinflates. So I'll just pump away there. I can feel the air coming out of the envelope underneath me there. And by the way, while I'm pumping it, this unit is a domestic one, which you can use watching television or eating your dinner or whatever. But there is also an automotive version, which you're looking at now, and it works in exactly the same way. And in fact, I've been testing that for the last 5 or 6 months for Paul. And I found that whereas I used to get out of the car after a long trip and be almost incapable of walking, and it'd take me 15 minutes to get my back into shape, I now find that it greatly reduces the amount of discomfort I suffer from my back. Now, that bulb is pretty well flat now. I'll just pop up again and show you what's happened to the unit. Now, as you can see, from being all floppy, it's now really quite rigid, and it's conformed to the shape of my body, and it's given me support in the small of my back there. That'll stay like that until you undo a valve here, which is, again, very easy to do. Just undo the valve, you let the air back in, it goes soft again, and you can reshape it for whatever chair or environment in which you may be sitting. Now, it's a superb unit. Paul has them in a small series production. They are available only from us. I'll give you the details a little later in the show.